Joe Schoen is coming back as general manager of the Giants, and I'm good with it. I think Joe Schoen has done a really good job with the Giants. I'd give him a B+. And I know that's a crazy take to a lot of people, and I know it's an unpopular opinion, and I know Joe Schoen is one of the most hated men in New York sports right now. But I think if you take a step back and you look at the job that Joe Schoen has done, especially recently, in assembling the young core of this football team, you will realize that Joe Schoen has done a really good job. Like, look back at the roster that Schoen took over and ask yourself, which position has the team got worse at? Let's start with quarterback. Are they better at quarterback? Yes. Jaxson Dart. Oh, Brian Dable, that was Dable's guy, Dart. Okay, but Joe Schoen still signed off on Jaxson Dart getting drafted. He could have easily said, no, we're not doing that. We're going with my guy. So Dable deserves more of the credit, but Joe Schoen does deserve some of the credit for Jaxson Dart. How about the running back room? You like Scadaboo? I do. You like Tyrone Tracy? I do. That's a damn good running back room. And quite frankly, the way that Saquon Barkley's playing right now, you could argue that the Giants, when healthy, have a better running back room. How about wide receiver? You like Malik Neighbors? I do. I think he's going to go down as the greatest wide receiver in the history of the team. I said that when he got drafted. Do I think that another big-time wide receiver is coming here in the offseason? I do. Would I call the Vikings up for Justin Jefferson? I would. Would I draft a wide receiver in the first round? Yes. As early as 5? Yes, I would. Has the offensive line gotten better under Joe Schoen? Yeah, it has. A unit that has gotten so much flack on this radio station, rightfully so, and has received so many, calls, us as hosts, from you, the listeners, the audience. How many hosts on the station have said, man, the offensive line, if they could fix the offensive line. The Giants have fixed their offensive line. And Joe Schoen is a big part of that because he has constructed the majority of it. And now, not only is it a non-issue, it's a strength of the team. How about the D-line? Which I understand underperformed this year, but I think that's more to do with scheme and a bad defensive coordinator than it does the actual talent. Joe Schoen, outside of Dexter Lawrence, put this D-line together. Carter, Burns, Kayvon. And I think, and I felt all along, Joe Schoen was closer to completing what his mission was when he started here. He was closer to getting that accomplished than Brian Dable was. Brian Dable was clearly in over his head as a head coach. I think Dable will be a good coordinator again. I think he'll get hired. If I was the Jets, I would certainly hire him. But it sounds like, based on reports, that Tom Brady loves him and he could be the OC in Vegas. But if I was the Jets, I would and I'm drafting a quarterback either this year or next year, I would want Brian Dable to be the guy that teaches that young quarterback how to be successful in the NFL. Because he's now done it with Allen and he's done it with Dart. But Brian Dable is not a good head coach. And I think the ineptitudes of the coaching staff of the Giants has made a lot of people not realize what type of talent this team has. Like, just look at this year. We'll do it together. We got 4 hours here. Let's look at the Giants this season and go through the games. Take any head coach you want that's good, either on the unemployment line or in the league. You want Mike Tomlin, you want Sean McVay, you want Andy Reid, you want Mike McCarthy, you want either Harbaugh, you name it. Let's go through the games and say, if the Giants had started Jaxson Dart right out of the gate, which is what I was screaming for. I was the Start Dart guy. I had the Start Dart sign on my chest for weeks. If you start Jaxson Dart week 1 with the right head coach this season, and I just gave you all those coaches, you pick whichever one you want. Let's do this exercise together. Are the Giants beating the Commanders in week 1? Yes. Are the Giants beating the Cowboys in week 2? Yes. Are the Giants beating the Chiefs in week 3? Debatable. So I'll give you that one loss. They beat the Chargers. They would have beat the Saints. They had beat the Eagles. They definitely would have beat the Broncos. I don't think they would have beaten the Eagles in Philly, but okay. They would have beaten the 49ers, absolutely. The 49ers had nothing in that game, if you remember. They had like 2 players. They were so banged up. Purdy didn't play. Kittle was out. No, Kittle was in and Christian McCaffrey were in. But other than that, they didn't have like any of their skill position players, which most of the year they didn't. But the 49ers have great coaching. Shanahan is outstanding. Saleh, not a head coach, but he is terrific as a DC. But the Giants, if they had the right coaching, would have won that game. They would have won the Bears game. Would have won the Lions game. Would have won the Packers game. I lost count, but that's a lot of wins with the right coaching. And that's why you keep Joe Schoen, because the roster's there. The Giants have the roster to win. That's why I would give him a B+. Not an A+. It's not complete. Still need help in the secondary. Still need another big-time wide receiver. Some O-line depth. It's not an A+. There have been mistakes, but I think, and Joe Schoen alluded to this today, what management has allowed him to do is make up for those mistakes. Now, maybe you're not a forgiving person. Maybe you're somebody that doesn't believe in second chances. And maybe you believe Joe Schoen took 3 steps backwards and you're not going to allow him to make up for those steps and go further, which I think he already has. But you're going to say, well, if he took 3 steps back and now he's taken 4 steps forward, that's only 1 step forward. That's not enough. But I, along with Giants ownership, agree that Joe Schoen is trending in the right direction. His last 2 drafts have been very good. Last year, outstanding. He secured the most valuable thing in all of football, and that's the quarterback. Joe Schoen, because this is what I hear. Now that the Giants have a vacancy at head coach, anytime an insider appears on television or tweets something out or writes a story, what do you hear across the board? The Giants' job, the head coaching vacancy, is an attractive job. Well, how could it be an attractive job if the general manager stinks? Explain that. It's an attractive job, yes, because of the quarterback, which Joe Schoen deserves credit for, but also because they have a really good, exciting, young nucleus. Neighbors, Carter, Scadaboo, Tracy, of course, Dart, Burns. That's why it's attractive. And that's why I think a lot of the best ones that are available, and we'll see if Harbaugh ends up getting fired. I think it's more of a pipe dream, more on that in a little bit. But if you're McCarthy, if you're Stefanski, if you're the top of the line, coaches with experience, yes, this is an attractive job. Now, you might not agree with me on my Joe Schoen take. I'm sure a lot of you don't, because a lot of people are upset and he's as hated as anybody in New York sports right now. But I think we can agree on this. And Shane was asked about it today, and he didn't comment. So who knows? But he didn't say yes or no. If I'm the Giants, you have to extend Joe Schoen. You have to. You have to give him a contract extension. If you want to fire him or you were going to fire him, great, fire him. That's your prerogative. And I would have said, all right, I disagree with it, but okay, fine. But now that you've made the decision to keep him, you have to extend him. You can't be one toe in the water here. There's no half measures. Because if you are a coach with experience, and the Giants need to hire a head coach with experience, you have to show a unified front here. You can't give the impression, because yes, there are a lot of people in the media, and there are a lot of people amongst the fans, I'm not blaming anybody for this opinion, that are painting the picture of the Giants of dysfunction, and they don't know what they're doing, and it's ass backwards, and the standards are really low. That is the local perception. That doesn't mean that Kevin Stefanski feels that way. That doesn't mean that Mike McCarthy feels that way. That doesn't mean that any of the coordinators... I leave the coordinators out of it, though, even though I was about to bring them in, because when you are a coordinator... Now, if you're the top one, like if you're Ben Johnson, you have the pick of the litter. But a lot of times when you're a coordinator, you're just looking for a break. You're just looking for an opportunity, so you'll go anywhere. I mean, Aaron Glenn is a good example of that. Oh, the Jets without Aaron Rodgers, sign me up for this dumpster fire because I want the opportunity, and I understand that. But if I'm looking on the outside in and I have no, feel for what the media thinks or what the fans are saying, and I'm not on Twitter and I'm not reading Reddit or I'm not going on blogs if people still blog anymore or podcasts, the one thing I can look at is, okay, they kept the GM, but they're not extending him? Now, maybe they did extend Joe Schoen, and we'll find that out. Hopefully people are sniffing around and they get that information. Because if you're going to keep him, you have to show that you are committed to him long term. Otherwise, it's murky. Like, are you going to get rid of him after the draft? Are you just keeping him for the end of the year? Makes absolutely no sense. And I believe the Giants have a plan here. And that's why you need to hire the right head coach. This hiring process, this head coach is so important. It's as important as any hire they've ever made. Because they have the franchise quarterback. They have what I believe is to be the next great quarterback in this league. And you don't want to screw that up with bad coaching. Not necessarily that you'll screw the player up, but you don't want to screw up what's around him. Perfect example. Best player in the NFL is, you guessed it, Josh Allen. I think right now Josh Allen is better than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, if you told me one game, would I take Mahomes over Allen? Probably, but here's why. Patrick Mahomes has Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes has Spags. Patrick Mahomes has Travis Kelce. That's not to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes, but he has a terrific supporting cast and support system. Josh Allen does not. He has a total idiot as a head coach. Sean McDermott is clueless, awful, just beyond belief bad. And if he became available, I wouldn't hire him with no shot. And they have done nothing in Buffalo to build around Josh Allen. They've done a disservice to him. And he does everything in his power to will that team to wins in the regular season and in the playoffs. And we'll see if they can get it done this week against Jacksonville. They finally have a clear path with Kansas City out. This is their year to get to the Super Bowl. Will that happen? Doubt it, because their head coach stinks. But Josh Allen is so great that he rises above it from a individual performance. And he does as much as he can to get the Bills as far as he possibly can. But they can't get over the hump because the head coach stinks. And that's exactly why you have to hire the right guy here for the Giants. And that guy, for me, has been and will continue to be Mike McCarthy. Now, coming up in the next half hour, we're going to go over McCarthy's resume, and I want to compare it to Kevin Stefanski's because Stefanski is the guy that you're hearing a lot of buzz about. Sounds like, based on reports, I think Schefter had the report that Stefanski's going to meet with the Giants this week, and the Giants did confirm they will start interviews this week. And everybody's in love with Kevin Stefanski. In love with him. Oh, he's a no-brainer hire. Really? We're going to go over his resume, compare it to McCarthy's, and we're going to really see how much of a no-brainer Kevin Stefanski is. But first, your calls. Let's go out to Port Washington. Chris is on the fan. What's up, Chris?
What's going on, man? All right, so I don't know if there's much of a problem of losing, of winning the last two games and ruining the draft pick, because at the end of the day, they have a quarterback, and they're still prospects. It is kind of baffling that they're 4-8 in the last, whatever weeks of the year, and they're like 8-38 the rest of the season. Kind of ridiculous. My thing with the two wins, right, and they put up 68 points in 2 weeks, which seems like they don't do that for the entire season. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be enough to keep some of the guys that are either there, right? I don't think Kafka has a shot. I know they seem to love this guy.
He might have a role on the team. I don't think he's going to have a major role.
So just the guys that come to mind that get major minutes, and I like Tyrone Tracy. I think he's a good secondary, good back.
Yeah.
I think guys that are on the block that play all the time, and Dane Belton's out there making tackles, get over 100. Get out. I think Dexter Lawrence is in a lot of jeopardy. Getting cut.
Not getting cut. Getting traded.
Get traded.
Yes.
Well, whatever. Not on the team.
Chris,
these guys.
Hold on, Chris. I don't want to gloss over that because that's a major thing that you just said. First and foremost, I agree with you. I think Dexter Lawrence is in a really weird situation. So
weird, dude. It looks like he's washed.
No, I don't think he's washed. I think he's checked out. I think the losing has got to him. I think he is frustrated. It could be money. It could be losing. But the Giants and Joe Schoen have to make a decision here because he is not the player he used to be. But I don't think it's because he's washed. I think it's because he's checked out.
Okay, just I got to circle out some point at the end of this. But like there was a play yesterday, whatever, and he's lined up, and like he never looks sloppy. Right, he's got his jersey. He looks even out of shape. You're right. It looks checked out. But the guys that are there, right? There's no chance like that they gloss over the fact that they're the worst franchise the last 15 years of football.
No, well, that's not true. That's not true.
Yes, they are.
The Jets
gosh, yes, they are.
The Jets are. No, the Jets are.
Okay. All right,
but come on. By the way. I don't even take like a victory lap there, and that's not me being mean to the Jets.
Right.
But come on, the Giants have made the playoffs a couple times. Like the Jets, until the Jets make the playoffs, they're not only the worst franchise in football. Okay. The Jets are the worst franchise in sports.
Let me get my point.
I will, but come on, we're bad. We're bad. We're not Jet bad.
I was a season ticket holder until they got priced out at the the PSLs.
PSL. Right?
Before last year, statistically, Kansas City Chiefs had scored 5,200 points in the last decade plus two. Right, the Giants were last. Okay, the Giants scored 3,700 points, which is 2 possessions less. So offensively, statistically, they are the worst team in the football last year. That's not my point. My point is that these 2 wins, right, coming out playing hard for Kafka. It looks like they played harder for him than they ever did for Dable this year. There's no chance that this is going to skew the perception that the guys on the team that have been dogging it, Deontay Banks,
Tay Banks,
these guys are brutal. You know what? It's in there. We just got to get the right guy in that because they need to dump everybody. And
I don't know about everybody, Chris, and I appreciate the call. There's some dead weight that's got to get out of here. Slayton's got to get out of here. Tay Banks has got to get out of here. Evan Neal's got to get out of here. And by the way, those are all on the doorstep of Joe Schoen. Like, why did they bring back Darius Slayton this year? Leadership, is that why? Because there's a lot of flack that Schoen and this team has received because you let leaders like Barkley, McKinney walk, and they figured, all right, Slayton's a leader, let's bring him back. I was floored when they brought back Darius Slayton. Floored. I'm like, made no sense other than what I just laid out. And even then, I still wouldn't have done it. Tay Banks, the only thing he's good at, and we saw it with the Raider game, is returns. He actually is good with that. But he's a guy in the secondary that has quit on the field and doesn't feel like tackling or covering half the time, which is inexcusable. And yes, I do think Joe Schoen, Jalen Hyatt, there have been players or are players that Schoen has sort of force-fed all of us because he's either holding out hope that they turn it around or he's stubborn, which I don't agree with. But I do think that they're going to chew a lot of fat this year, especially from those previous drafts that weren't as successful. And I think they will start to highlight more of the guys from the last couple of drafts, the last 2 years, and then the players from this upcoming draft. Which is why, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but because you brought up these last 2 games, and for whatever reason they won these games, was not what they should have done. It was meaningless. There's no carryover. And they had an opportunity to have the number 1 overall pick, and they could have traded that to, I don't know, the Jets for their picks, and it would have given the Giants multiple first-round, second-round picks, whatever the case may have been, and it would have given Joe Schoen an opportunity to fill in the necessary voids. Secondary, safety, wide receiver. But that didn't happen. Instead, and I put this out on social media, it got a lot of engagement, not to brag, but it got a lot of engagement. That, maybe I was a little hyperbolic, but I basically said, the Giants had the world in their hands. They screwed it up. These 2 wins are meaningless, and losing and having the number 1 overall pick meant everything. Awful. No way to slice it. I even can memorize my tweets right off the top of my head. That's why I'm a generational talent. And the amount of responses, I try to get to everything. I try to be like Santa. I make a list. I check it twice. I try to read everything, even though, Loogie's this, Loogie's that, whatever.
Loogie!
I saw my buddy a week ago. He's like, bro, do you read the comments? I go, yeah. He goes, they're brutal. I go, yeah, whatever. But they're a comment, though. So to me, a good comment, bad comment, a comment's a comment. Some of the things I heard was, yeah, but we beat the Cowboys. That's great. No, we didn't. The Cowboys laid down. They benched Dak Prescott, or they sat Dak Prescott in the second half. They didn't care. He didn't beat the Cowboys. The Cowboys said, you know what, we're good. That's why Week 18 is a sham anyway, because the NFL are pigs and they have to stretch out the season. 16 games on Christmas, 45 games on Thanksgiving, games on Saturday the last couple weeks, where Week 18 means nothing and you have third-string quarterbacks going up against fifth-string quarterbacks. But these wins mean nothing. Oh, I want to win. I want to build a culture. That's not how you build a culture. You build a culture by hiring the right head coach and by fixing it from that perspective, the CEO, the adult in the room. And that, for me, is Mike McCarthy. 888-808-1019 is the number to call. Now, the Fan Focus is sponsored by Chef IQ. Precision cooking, effortless results, chefiq.com. The NFL playoffs are here. And let's take a look at the wild card games in the NFC. Actually, let's take a look at the AFC first. We'll do AFC first. Sunday at 1 p.m., the Bills are in Jacksonville to take on the Red Hot Jags. Buffalo has fared well in the playoffs with Josh Allen. Except against the Chiefs, a team they won't have to see this year. Next up is the Chargers in New England. They play the Pats. This marks the first career playoff game for Drake May. So I'm definitely interested to see how May will fare against, Jim Harbaugh, who's got a lot of experience, took his, the 49ers to the Super Bowl. Now they have a lot to answer for, and Justin Herbert has not been good in big games. So Herbert really needs to step up and the Chargers. I always want to call them San Diego because they should be in San Diego. It's ridiculous that they're in LA. My wife is from San Diego, and the Chargers should still be in San Diego. So every time I say it, I'm just about to say San, and then I have to go to L.A. L.A. doesn't want one team. Somehow they have two teams. To finish up the weekend on Monday night, the Steelers host the Texans. Now, this is a stat that is crazy, and they brought this up when Pittsburgh hosted Miami a couple weeks ago. The Steelers, who have so many of these type of stats that just make you go, wow, they are one of the best organizations in the NFL. The Steelers have won 23 straight home games on Monday night. 23. Now I'm going to give my opinion. That was the stuff I wrote down. Now let me give you my opinion on this. I love the Texans. I think the Texans are going to the Super Bowl. They have the best defense in the NFL. CJ Stroud is good. At times can be great. They have a number one wide receiver, Nico Collins. They have a decent running game. Woody Marks is solid. Nick Chubb. It's good, but to me, it's their defense. And I know not a lot of people love to buy into this stuff, but I do, and I think it's something to. I always say this: you don't have to gamble, and if you do gamble, always gamble responsibly. But if you want to give or you want to create an opinion on a game, check the betting lines. Just check them. They can tell a story sometimes. The Texans are favored. I just gave you Pittsburgh has won 23 straight Monday night games. This game is Monday night in Pittsburgh under the lights. And the Texans are favored. What does that tell you? Vegas thinks they're winning the game. Now, Mike Tomlin, there's always that Steeler pixie dust and magic, and we saw it against the Ravens where the Steelers were dogs in that game. But for me, it's Houston. And I think they're going to the Super Bowl. And I think their defense is going to get, now they'll get Metcalf back, and that's a big boost for Pittsburgh. But to me, and I know Mike Tomlin has had his struggles in the playoffs, I think that's going to add to this as well. I think Pittsburgh getting in and Rodgers having that moment and Tomlin having that moment. Remember, Steeler fans were screaming, fire Mike Tomlin. This was a home game, and they were booing Renegade. And ever since that, the Steelers, I think, lost one game, and they're now hosting a playoff game, which speaks to how great Mike Tomlin is. But I think the road ends here. All right, 888-808-1019 is the number to call. Tommy Lugauer. Loogie, a little after hours, positive Tommy in prime time.